Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a sports story that, well, it really went beyond the track. We're diving into the incredible journey of Oguri Cap, known across Japan as the gray idol of horse racing. And our mission really is for you to understand what made this horse more than just a champion. How did he become this huge cultural figure in the late 80s? As we look through the sources, one thing just jumped right out, and it kind of sums up everything. Even if stronger horses come along, none will ever be loved as deeply as Oguri.
That quote really nails it, doesn't it? Because it's about feeling not just, how fast he ran. Oguri Cap's career happened right at this really pivotal moment in history, the end of the Showa era, the start of Heisei. He wasn't just winning races, he was this champion from nowhere, basically. Yeah. He gave people this real sense of hope, of grit, right when the sport and maybe the whole country kind of needed a hero figure.
Let's start right at the beginning then, because you can't get much humbler origins. When you think champion racehorses, you think pedigree, right? Blue blood, Oguri Cap, not so much.
Exactly. I mean, if you just looked at his parents on paper, you'd have completely written them off. His sire, Dancing Cap, he was okay, a regional stallion, but definitely not elite. And his dam, White Narubi, she wasn't famous at all. Genetically, he should have been maybe a decent local runner. That's it. The sources actually call him a freak of nature, maybe some kind of genetic throwback.
And physically, he sounds like he was really fragile at the start. The material we read paints this picture of a foal with legs so weak he could barely even stand up. It's almost tough to read about.
It really is, which makes the name his breeders picked. Kind of touching, actually. They called him Hatsuratu. It means lively or vigorous. It sounds more like they were hoping, praying maybe, rather than describing the weak little foal they had.
So this humble start, it lands him at a small regional track Kasamatsu racecourse. And after losing a couple early on, he apparently just clicked, and the local legend starts right there.
Oh, he absolutely found his stride. He reels off 8 straight wins. 5 of them were local stakes races. It just proved that whatever he lacked on paper, his heart, his ability, it was undeniable. By the time he moved up to the big leagues, the JRA, that's the Japan Racing Association, the main circuit in '88, he'd already won 10 out of 12 starts. He was a big deal locally.
But then, boom, he hits the JRA and immediately runs into this huge roadblock. This is key to his whole underdog story, right? He couldn't run in the Japanese classics.
That's right. No Triple Crown equivalent for him. It was down to these pretty archaic JRE rules back then. You had to nominate horses way, way early, and it basically just locked out horses like him coming up late from the regional tracks. That rule didn't even change until 1992, long after Oguri was done racing.
Wait, hold on. That sounds kind of nuts now. This amazing horse is coming up, clearly talented, and he's just barred from the biggest races that define a generation. Wasn't there, any pushback on that rule then?
Not really. The rules were just sort of accepted. But it meant his team had to get creative. Forget the 3-year-old classics. Oguri had to jump straight into races against older, proven Grade 1 winners right from the get-go. And that really cemented his image, didn't it? The outsider, always punching above his weight, never getting the easy rub.
And he found those heavyweights pretty fast. His whole story seems defined early on by this amazing rivalry with another gray horse, Tomomo Cross. He was a year older.
Yep, they clashed right away in 1988. And Oguri, well, he was playing catch-up at first. Tomomo Cross beat him in 2 huge races, the Tenor Show Autumn and the Japan Cup. Oguri was clearly good, really good, but Tomomo just had the edge for a while.
But then came the 1988 Arima Kinnin. And this wasn't just any big race. It was supposed to be Tomomo Cross's last race before retirement. The symbolism there must have been huge.
Oh, it was absolutely a passing of the torch moment. Oguri Cap finally gets him, beats him, secures his first Grade 1 win. It was like a national announcement. The old grade champ is out. The new gritty grade champ is here. That win, that's what took him from being just a regional story to a genuine national superstar.
So by 1989, the rivalries just get deeper. The media lumps him in with 2 other big names, Super Creek, the tough stayer, and Inari, one other horse who came up the hard way from the regional tracks.
They called him the Heisei Big 3.
Yeah.
And their races, man, they just grabbed the public's attention. Every time they lined up against each other, it felt bigger than just a horse race. It was like a national event, especially in the Tennis Show and the Arima Kinnin.
But if you really want to get Oguri's heart, you got to look at the 1989 Japan Cup. The notes we have show he was on this absolutely punishing schedule leading into it.
Unbelievable schedule. He ran the Tennis Show, then turned right around and ran the Mile Championship, a top mile race, and then went straight into the 2,400-meter Japan Cup. For any horse, that's just physically brutal.
And yet, in that Japan Cup, he runs maybe the race of his entire life, pushes the pace, drives so hard, and he actually breaks the track record for 2,400 meters.
He did. And here's why it's legendary. He still finished second, lost by a nose, a literal nose, to Horlicks, a great mare from New Zealand who also broke the track record. You just had these two incredible athletes pushing each other beyond what anyone thought was possible.
Wow. Running a record race and still losing by a hair, that must feel uniquely crushing. Do the sources say that maybe that moment made people connect with him even more than a win could have?
Absolutely. The fans saw the sheer effort. They saw him fighting like hell against impossible odds. Sometimes in racing, losing a grade 1 like that, giving absolutely everything, it earns you more love than an easy win. It just cemented that whole narrative. This horse simply does not quit. Ever.
Okay, so moving into 1990, the story takes another sharp turn. He still shows flashes of brilliance, like winning the Asuda Kinnin, that big mile race in record time. But, racing careers are tough. They can be short.
They really are.
Yeah.
And later that fall, it seemed like maybe all that hard racing caught up to him. The sources described this just disastrous run in the Japan Cup that year.
He finished 11th. 11th. His worst finish ever. It must have felt like the legend was just fizzling out suddenly.
Well, the critics, the commentators, they were absolutely brutal. The calls for him to retire were everywhere, really loud. Everyone basically thought he was done, finished, over the hill. It really made fans wonder, is the Gray Idol just going to fade away like that?
But the horse himself, or maybe just fate, had one more incredible twist left. His very last race was set for the 1990 Arima Kinnin, which is huge, right? It's the big fan-voted race at the end of the year.
Exactly.
Oh.
And given how badly he'd run just before, nobody in the betting public really believed in a comeback. He went off as the fourth favorite. I mean, the expectation was this is his farewell. The younger horses will take over now.
Knowing it might be the absolute last time anyone saw him race, the atmosphere must have been just electric.
Electric, yeah, but maybe a bit sad too. He ran kind of mid-pack for a lot of the race, looked like he maybe didn't have much left. But then, turning for home, his jockey asked him for one last effort, and he just found it. That famous acceleration one last time.
He surged past the leaders, drove hard, and he held off the younger horse, Machiro Ryan, to win it. A horse everyone said was finished comes back and wins his final race.
It's pure storybook stuff, but the win itself, that's only half of it. What happened next is what truly cemented his place in history. There were over 170,000 people at Nakayama Racecourse that day, and they just erupted this huge unified chant, Oguri, Oguri.
That sounds less like a horse race and more like a rock concert ending.
It was absolutely seismic.
Yeah.
And historically. Super important.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that everyone points to that exact moment as the birth of the victory call in Japanese racing. Before Oguri, crowds clapped, sure, but chanting the horse's name together like that was new. It wasn't just cheering a win. It felt like this huge shared emotional release for a national hero. It just proved how iconic he was.
So after that perfect fairy tale finish, he retires to stud. But here's the final bit of irony for the ultimate outsider. He didn't pass on the magic. He sired no great champions. His bloodline, since he passed away in 2010, has pretty much disappeared.
Right. His greatness, whatever it was, it just wasn't something you could pass down genetically.
Yeah.
So his legacy isn't in pedigrees, it's in the culture. He was the horse who brought people to the track who'd never cared about racing before: kids, families, everyone. He stood for the idea that, yeah, greatness can come from anywhere. It's about heart, grit, and inspiring hope.
And part of why people related to him, why they connected, seems to be because he was also just kind of a lovable weirdo. Not just the Gray Idol, but the Glutton Gray.
Yes, the Glutton Gray. It's maybe the most humanizing thing about him in all the sources.
Yeah.
Okay, so a normal racehorse might eat, say, 15 kilos of feed a day. Oguri, legendary appetite. He could apparently put away 10 shao. That's about 18 liters of feed in one go.
He was basically a food vacuum with legs.
Totally. Always hungry. The sources say if he finished his feed, he'd start eating anything weeds outside his stall, chewing the straw bedding, even gnawing on his metal feed bucket looking for more.
And the detail I love is he apparently never lifted his head until every single scrap of food was gone. Just relentless. So he's this flawed, hungry, tough-as-nails outsider who somehow pulled off the perfect, unscripted Hollywood ending.
And the synthesis, I think, is pretty clear. Oguri Cap, this horse, not bred for it, missed the big classics, fought through terrible losses, and ended up sparking this nationwide chant. He really teaches us that sports culture, maybe culture in general, often values that inspiring relatability even more than technical perfection.
He literally ran his way into history and into the hearts of a whole country. Delivered a story better than any scriptwriter could ever dream up.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more. Check out our other videos for more stories you might enjoy.